Welcome to Conversations with Body and Mind with myself, Nirvana Lange. Body and Mind is your health and wellness online directory. And coming up in today's conversation, I'll be talking to Ilsa Stone, and we are going to be talking about her book, The Art of Determination. And what a powerful, powerful title that is for a book. Good morning, Isla. How are you doing?
Good morning, Nirvana. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Waiting for this winter to pass and for the sun to come out. I'm desperate for some heat. So yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. Um,
I can
so,
agree.
so Isla, your book, The Art of Determination, what led up to you taking pen to paper? That's very brave. I always think about a book as having a baby and having a baby in your tummy and giving birth to this child, which is your book, The Art of Determination. So what was that seed that was planted for you to go through the journey of writing this book?
So I always loved writing in journals. I had a love for books my whole life. Books were my escape. It was my place where I could go and disappear and just be safe. It was my safe place. And when I got into recovery, it was the first place where it was safe for me to write journals. And I started writing consistently for the first time in my life. So after a while, I found this space where I thought, why don't I turn this into a book? Because it shows this growth and this beautiful journey that I've been through, and I wanted to share it with people. I wanted to share the growth and the change that was in me, because this change was so amazing to me, and I was so grateful that I had this opportunity to grow. So I decided to share it, and the reason I named it The Art of Determination was because I had to be determined during all of those obstacles that I faced throughout that recovery process, because I thought once I get into recovery, everything would be fine. Everything would just move so smoothly. And it didn't. I had so many obstacles and things I had to face, denials that I had placed aside, denial that I'd been in for so many years. And this came up in recovery and things I had to face throughout my recovery. So The Art of Determination, I felt, was a good name for the book.
Yeah, I remember when I was a child and having to deal with what I was dealing with. I wrote also in my little journals, and you reminded me of that. And then also it wasn't safe for me to write in my journals, and then I started using a hidden language to write in my journals, so that and I could understand what I was writing in there. You really have inspired me to go into my garage and go get my boxes with all my journals of the things that I've written, because there's lots of gems in there for me to put it into my book, which is sitting inside of me. So, The Art of Determination. Give us the interlude. Give us what is. So, you talked about recovery, but before recovery, obviously, the events that led up to you having to get to that space where you were, is it substance abuse? I'm not sure exactly what. Yeah. Tell us more about that.
So what I experienced was a moment in time where I realized that I had a drug and alcohol problem. But before that, the reason I actually intentionally used drugs and alcohol to numb myself. I was very afraid to feel emotions, and I was in a lot of pain, a heck of a lot of pain. So I spent 5 years of my life running away from these emotions that I couldn't face. And this was due to, at that point, I didn't realize what it was about. I didn't realize why I was in that pain. I didn't know. I had certain ideas of why I was in the pain that I was in, because my father was never around when I was a child. I felt rejected. I felt unloved. But I think the biggest thing, and the thing I was most in denial about, was that I had experienced a very toxic family life, and that toxic family life was so in denial. Everyone in that family was so in denial about the abuse that was happening in that toxic little space that I wasn't even aware of it until I got into recovery, and that's why I was in so much pain. And when I got into recovery and it was pointed out to me that what I had experienced in my family life was unnatural, not healthy, and completely toxic, then I realized why I was in so much pain. And that included sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and growing up with someone that actually very likely was living in their own psychosis. So I was sucked into that psychosis. And so was the rest of my family, my mom and my sister and my brother and a lot of other people. So recovering from that, but also a lot of other things in my history that I felt were like cycles, cycles of decisions that people in my past made that had sort of been imprinted on me as a child. So bad decisions in bad decision making in choosing partners, bad decision making in how you choose to respond to the world, those types of things. So the book takes the reader through the healing process from the toxicity and the bad choices, obsessions, and unhealthy behavior. And for me, the biggest thing that I had experienced was this fear of living, this fear of getting out there and just doing things that I love.
I know.
Going out and riding a bicycle, going out and enjoying things that I love doing. And I couldn't understand why I was so afraid.
Yeah, I know.
I was so scared.
Mm.
And I worked through that fear eventually and managed to find this place where I now feel confident enough in myself. And I think it had a lot to do with self-esteem to do the things that I love doing. So yes, I think there's a lot of things to do with learning to forgive myself. It talks about forgiving myself first before I can forgive anyone else, because of what I had done when I was in those places of the darkest times of my life when I drank, and also with the abuse. And then learning to forgive others. But it is a process. All of this is a process, and I'm still learning to go through these processes, and it's a lifelong process. So for me, what I found was spirituality was the one thing that I held on to, that kept me safe, and I kept on reaching out to certain places that I felt were going to help me change my perspective, change my way of thinking, change the way that I perceive the world, because I perceive the world in a very distorted manner. I perceive the world in a very distorted manner because of how I grew up. And I used different ways of doing things. I went to the fellowships. I used certain affirmations like Louise Hay, the law of attraction, Dr. Wayne Dyer, and other spiritual means. There were lots of things that I reached out to. I even used art. I developed this absolute huge obsession with paper marbling, which was these printing things, a printing mechanism or way of doing art that they put in books a long time ago. So I started doing that. So I sort of art therapy myself. And yeah, so the book is about that whole process of getting better. And what I love about the book is it shows my sickness in the beginning and how I started getting better throughout that process.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And I really do resonate so much with what you're saying, having journeyed through that abuse as a child myself. and using whatever escapism you know you could. I'm lucky, and I really do feel that I'm very lucky that I didn't go into drugs or alcohol. I think me seeing the damage that alcohol did in my family was the one thing that made me so afraid of it. I think I was aware, but I wasn't aware that I was aware that the demon that is within the spirit of alcohol, you know. And so I was afraid. I was so afraid. I think my fear was that I was going to be like my father. Like, that was my fear. So if I had to give in to that substance or that whatever, I would become like my father. So that was, you know, so that is one of the things that I'm very lucky that I didn't go down that way. But I had other ways of, you know, of dealing with the pain and the programming, you know, that you were saying, you know, the way that it's been imprinted into you of who you are in this world, and your boundaries are completely destroyed through the person who's supposed to be protecting, or the people who's supposed to be protecting you and taking care of you. So once that has been destroyed and they've invaded that, you have no sense of what boundaries really is. And so that is then the journey of that self-love and self-forgiveness. And you know, when people hear us talk about self-forgiveness, there is so much more to the sense. Like, we're not saying it's our fault when we're saying self-forgiveness. It's
No,
not saying it's our fault,
no.
because that's not what
No.
the forgiveness is about. It's the forgiveness is about coming into a space of loving yourself in spite of what your body did in reaction to what was done to you and the shame you felt during that time. That's the forgiveness that we are talking about, because you begin to hate yourself so much
Yeah.
because you respond in a way that you know is not correct, but the body is the body, and the body's going to do what it's going to do, and it's a constant battle. So yeah.
For me, it was also about, did I know it was wrong? Did I know, should I have done something different? Should I have said something? Should I have, but also not having known the difference between what parental love was at that time, not knowing the difference and being groomed, you know? So at the, you know, being 11, you don't know.
Yeah,
But you
exactly.
can't blame yourself.
No, you can't
And
blame
so and so it's just about that guilt as a child. And you know, I think I also felt so responsible for my sister and my mother at a young age. And I was my mother's mother. I looked after my mother. I looked after my mother, I looked after my sister, and I took on a lot of responsibility from a very young age. So learning to to just be responsible, unprogram, and just to be responsible for myself and my experience. And what I wanted to say as well is, if it were not for those experiences in my life, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. Those experiences were the biggest teachers in my life, and I am so strong, and I love who I am.
Yeah.
I love the strong person that I am today.
100%.
I've learned so much. I am I'm so empowered, and so yes, those things were not great, and I don't condone it. It's terrible, and we are standing up for those things not to happen to children, and to, you know, for women to not have those things happen in their family, you know, not to turn a blind eye, not to be in denial. But, you know, I am the person I am today because of the things that happened.
Absolutely.
You know, and it made me strong.
Absolutely. 100% can agree with you with regards to that, because I wouldn't have the compassion, the understanding, the strength of survival and determination. How's that for the title of the book? You know, going back to the determination, people who don't understand the experience and the determination and the tenacity, the amount of tenacity that people like us, have. And I don't like creating
Yes.
separation, but there is something that is the gift within this darkness, which I think that a lot of people that haven't opened up that Pandora's box yet and had looked into that, your book, The Gift of Determination, the journey of how to open up and going in and finding the gift in that darkness, because
Yeah.
it's there, and it takes courage to open that box and saying,
Yeah.
I'm going to look into this darkness and I'm going to find that gem, that diamond, that ruby of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and also taking the responsibility for myself and how I respond to the world. It's not my fault what happened, but it's my responsibility with what I do with it, who I become, how I respond to the world. No one can make me feel a certain way. I choose how I feel. I choose who I become. I choose what I do with it. And so that empowers me and that makes me stronger. And this is who I am. So going through the process, I'm still I'm still doing it and I'm feeling my way around it. And it feels so good to be where I am today in this space. But I used to be a victim. I used to be there, and it's hard to get out of that victim mentality.
Oh,
It is,
yeah.
it's a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
But once you feel your way out of that victim mentality, it is very empowering.
That's very beautiful. I could really talk to you for hours, and I think we've already probably exceeded, just the 10-minute introductory to you and your beautiful book, The Art of Determination. And people who are listening to this and are curious about the journey, where can they get hold of the book? How can they get hold of you? If you have any social media or anything like that that you'd like to share.
Okay, so people can get hold of my book at Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Take-A-Lot, and Balboa, at the Balboa bookstore. I have brought in some books that I'll be sending to Protea Books that will be distributing it throughout South Africa very soon. So it should be on the shelves on exclusive books, and that pretty soon, probably by the end of August, maybe the beginning of September. And it will also be available with Body and Mind.
Great.
And you can get, if you want to know more, you can go to www.ilastone.co.za. I've got an Instagram, Isla Stone Art, at Isla Stone Art, and then you can come, and then I've also got a Facebook page, which is Isla Stone.
That's right, Isla. You can go to bodyandmind.coza and you can put the Art of Determination into the search bar, and all Isla's information will come up. We will also put the links in all the links to her pages below, and you can also download the Body and Mind Health Directory app in your Apple as well as in your Play stores, and you can interact with us that way. Please do subscribe and like and share this to people that you think can gain benefit out of these conversations. Thank you very much, Isla, for sharing your absolutely beautiful story with us. I'm really humbled and honored to share this with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nirvana. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.